Hello, Lynn Watts here with Wyatt the Wonder Dog Books. And today I'm going to continue talking about how you can use story to help students learn very specific skills or character traits. And for this example today, I'm going to use the Wyatt the Wonder Dog book on being organized. All right, a really important skill, especially in an academic or school setting, but certainly being organized relates to many, many things that we all do throughout the day. So I usually would begin this lesson by talking about what it means to be organized. All right. And at that point, I would usually have students look around the room and give me some examples of things that are organized, which is not usually hard to find in a classroom. They can usually point out lots of things that are organized. And then you might ask them, for some examples of things that are disorganized. And at that point, then usually what I would do is play a game that would help them really see the power of being organized. I might talk first of all about why they think it's a good idea to be organized. What are some of the advantages? And we might talk about that. And then some of the disadvantages of being disorganized. So after, maybe total of 5 minutes talking about being organized, disorganized, and some examples, then I would usually play with students. And I'm going to say you could probably do this with second grade on up, because this is really a game that kids will enjoy, but at the same time really makes an impact. You'll find this game in my Stories to Learn by book, which has a whole lesson plan on being organized, including, the standards and questions to ask, things like that. But it has a card relay race. And so you can divide up students. Usually you won't use the entire class, although you could, depending on the size of the class. But you will at least get some volunteers to play the relay race. I'm not going to go into all the rules about that, but you can find it in the book if you want to play the game, card relay race on being organized. All right. So, and that's in the Stories to Learn by book. At that point, then I would read the story about Wyatt. I would begin, before I even start the story, though, asking students to take a guess as to whether Wyatt is organized or not. And if he is not organized, what do you think might be some of the ways that he's disorganized? All right, so get some examples of things that they think might go wrong for him in terms of being organized for getting to school. You can even narrow it down a little bit because that is what it's about. So then I would read the story and highlight some of the ways that he's disorganized. He almost misses the bus. He doesn't have his homework when he gets to school. And then at that point, when he's very discouraged about how things are going, he talks to his teacher, and she's going to give him some advice on what he could do to improve and be better organized. At that point, I would stop the story and I would ask students to give some ideas. What do they think he needs to do? All right. So we're getting students into the problem solving mode. We're getting them invested in the story and giving advice, which hopefully will be advice that they can take themselves. So they come up with some ideas in terms of what he might do to be better organized and be on time, to be on schedule. And then you would finish reading the story, which, of course, in the end, he does have some particular strategies and things that he does. And he is on time, and he is, very happy to find that he has extra time because he is so organized. One of the advantages, of course, of being organized. Then if you have time, and I realize that you probably have a very short time frame for meeting with students, but if you have time, in the back of the book and also in the Stories to Learn by book, there is a worksheet where students can create their own morning or evening schedule. So there's some suggestions on there, like what time do they need to be dressed? What time do they need to catch the bus, leave the house, so forth and so on. They can fill that in. But you can help them. And obviously, you're going to need probably, I'm going to say you could do that with at least third grade in terms of talking about time. And of course, there's some advantages there in terms of, helping them with time frames in the morning and helping them to estimate how long it will take them to get ready and what time they need to be at school and so on. So it's a great activity to cover a whole lot of bases. You're talking about being on time, you're talking about being organized, you're talking about time frames and planning ahead. There's just lots of good material that you can cover with a very simple story. So I hope that you find that helpful in terms of a great way to interact with students on that particular problem and use a story to gain their attention, their investment in it, and teach them some problem solving skills that will be very useful to them on a day-to-day basis. So as always, thanks so much for all the impact and things that you do for young students. And thanks as always for listening.